And we're off. Welcome, everyone, to the weekly verdict. Very fitting. I've been using the Vince voice the last couple intros to our show, Charlie, right? Kind of fitting. You know, they don't call me Nostradamus for nothing. I'm usually pretty keen and sense these things. Weekly verdict, episode 2, JML, Charlie. We have a special guest from the channel, Mr. Frank. Frank, say hello.
Hello, everybody. How's your morning going? Hopefully it's good. It's really hot here in New York, so.
Yeah, it's hot everywhere. Charlie, was it episode 3?
Weekly verdict, episode 3.
Oh, I don't know how to count well. It's okay. So, I guess not a lot has happened. There's not a lot to talk about. This might just be like a really quick episode, right?
Yeah, that's it.
No, a whole lot happened yesterday. Started off the day with the return of the King of Kings, Triple H, resuming his EVP role as head of talent relations. Now, Frank, I'm a little confused. Is it Bruce Pritchard, the head of talent relations? Or was that just a semi-permanent role until Triple H got back?
Well, it was supposed to be temporary while Mr. Laurinaitis was indisposed, but seems like it wasn't very. It was very, very temporary because it's only been about 3 weeks, I'd say 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously this means Mr. Helmsley is back in full effect health-wise and can resume all his roles. So good for him.
Charlie, Triple H back in the head of talent relations role here. How do you feel about that?
Thank God Triple H is back in control of talent relations. Hopefully, if all is done well, we'll see Black and Gold back as well instead of Nickelodeon NXT.
Nickelodeon NXT. I like that. Yeah, for me, it seems like with a lot of talent that has left the company over the last, I don't know, year or two, they've all said great things about Triple H and their relationship with Triple H. Maybe with him in this role, we'll see some of those people back in the fold. That was kind of the first chip to fall yesterday. And then around 4:05 in the afternoon, there was another announcement. Why would they make an announcement at 4:05, Charlie, in the afternoon?
That would be the announcement that Vince made on Twitter that he is 77, ready to retire, and thanking the WWE Universe, and then now forever together.
But why would they choose 4:05 in the afternoon, Frank?
4:05 in the afternoon, probably because it's Friday afternoon. It's the end of the week, so it's probably the best time to do that. Also, of course, it's only 2 hours and 55 minutes till they go live on Fox.
What is WWE? What are they as a company? They're a publicly traded company.
Gotcha.
So the stock market officially closes at 4:05. No trades can be made. They didn't want to make this announcement while stocks could still get traded to change the market. So Vince retires 77 years old. Never thought I'd see the day that he retired in my lifetime. I thought this man was going to work until he was dead. You know, I'm not trying to be morbid, but that's the kind of work ethic that Vince McMahon has. And it's crazy to see him, you know, still kicking and retired and not a part of the company that he built and changed many, many lives.
Mm-hmm.
It changed even our lives because we're sitting here, we're doing weekly shows about pro wrestling. So you know you have to give him credit about that. Charlie,
What's up?
your initial knee-jerk reaction to VKM retiring?
It was a bunch of mixed emotions, as I also thought he'd die before he retires. I didn't know what to think at first because, like you said, we all grew up on the Vince McMahon product and plays a heavy role in all of our lives. We wouldn't be sitting here talking wrestling if it weren't for Vince. And I was in shock at first. Then news broke out that Nick Khan and Stephanie are joint CEOs of the WWE at this point. So there, I thought it's going to be in good hands. People with their fingers closer to the pulse than Vince had his. And I'm looking forward to not overnight, but WWE rebuilding and heading in a better direction than they are right now.
So I'll ask the same question to Frank. What was your initial reaction when you looked at or heard the news about Vince retiring?
In the first, I would just kind of did a double take at what my friend had sent me in a message. Second, honestly, my second thought went to, oh my God, what is this next news bombshell going to drop the next time they drop any more information about the latest investigation? Honestly, I went right to that. And then I went to, what does this mean? Then I, like you said, you said about Stephanie Nick Khan, I started thinking, what does this mean? There's a lot of chaotic elements going on right now. I'm still kind of processing this. I still don't know how to react fully, but yeah, like you said, I never thought this day would come. I said the only way he would be gone in his lifetime while he's still alive or still able to work would be something a shoe to drop as far as any skeletons and plazas, which we all assumed. We never knew for sure, but we knew. We just didn't think it would just get out until maybe after he was dead already.
Yeah, and the one situation that I'm a little uneasy about, let's take away the allegations with Vince. I'm just looking at the company structure. Not too many companies have co-CEOs. When you have, it's like, I'll make an analogy. It's like in the National Football League, when a team has two quarterbacks, you usually have zero. So something has to give here. It's either going to eventually be Nick as the CEO, Nick Khan, or Stephanie by herself. I don't see this co-CEO thing lasting in the long term. I'm not saying one of them's going to get fired or there has to be something has to give there. Frank, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think my first reaction to that is probably the reason why they're doing co-CEO thing and not just having Stephanie be the CEO permanently and Nick Khan keeping his current role. I'm assuming it has a lot to do with the business side. Obviously, the stockholders are going to have a crazy reaction to this. Like you said, they did this after stock trading had closed. I would assume a lot of these stockholders have faith in Nick Khan, considering the growth the company's had as far as financially over the last year alone. I mean, just even before he got there, but over the last year, since he's been involved, they keep cranking out the money. So like you said, it's hard. You can't have two people running one thing like that, and I don't see that lasting for a long time. But I think it's just more of a thing where maybe Vince was like, I trust Stephanie, but I want to have somebody in there that can actually help her in this spot. Someone with the experience, like Nick Khan, I guess. So yeah, it should be interesting to see, what the next 6 months to a year looks like in the corporate structure alone, let alone the on-screen product.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Sidebar, I'll turn it over to you guys. Who do you guys see taking control out of the two?
I'll go first. I actually see Nick Khan becoming the CEO of WWE by himself. It seems like he has got a good handle on everything. He just doesn't necessarily know the wrestling role, but he can place people around him that do. And I think for this company to move forward, they need a businessman and they need other people in their most defined roles. So they need the wrestling people in wrestling roles. And the CEO should be someone with a business background. And I'm not saying Stephanie doesn't have a business background, but Nick Khan has worked for several different companies, and he's to me, he's more of a CEO material. And the reason why there's co-CEOs, in my opinion, is so that they still have the McMahon name attached to the company for the long-term stockholders. Oh, there's still a McMahon attached to it. They know wrestling. The name Nick Khan is not synonymous with wrestling. On the other hand, and no one's talked about this yet, who's to say they don't sell the company at this point? I'm not saying tomorrow they sell the company, but who's to say in the next half year to 18 months that WWE isn't in some partnership with a streaming service or bought by a streaming service? To me, it makes more sense at this point of that big shoe to fall where none of these people have to work. It was a family business that turned into such a big conglomerate, and the only way for this company to get I think, in my opinion, to continue and elevate and go to the next level is if a company like an Apple, a Disney, and Amazon steps in and buys the company.
That's fair.
Frank.
Yeah, you make a great point there. Obviously, now more than ever, it's more likely that a sale would happen. Not saying it's going to happen, but I didn't think it would happen until Vince was out of power. I don't think he wanted to sell the company when he was still around. Obviously, if he had his way, he would have sold it and retired and went off into the sunset without being driven from it. But, that's what happens when you do certain things. But, yeah. I mean, I can also see then, like you said, if having Nick Khan on top, it's more attractive to these buyers. Hey, we've got a guy with the knowledge to run this company. But who's to say if somebody does take over, they don't just replace all the people there with other people? So I would imagine any part of a sale would have some kind of caveat that they would be retaining the management, maybe of Hunter, Stephanie, and Nick Khan, obviously.
I think, speaking of that, was a great point, Frank. I think at this point, Laurinaitis he's basically out, right? So we can forget about him. The next couple that I think are going to go is Kevin Dunn. I think Kevin Dunn's going to be out, which, say what you will about Kevin Dunn, the guy has been a really key cog to WWE. Not the most well-liked person behind the scenes, but in terms of his producing, he's produced some great content for us over the last couple decades now. And then you have Bruce Pritchard, who's always been a Vince guy. And if you've listened to any of his podcast episodes, one of the reasons why he didn't work for WWE for such a long time was an incident where he brought a gun to SmackDown. Charlie's shop. Yeah. Go Google it in the incident. And basically, Stephanie McMahon and him, they did not have a good. They didn't at that time. They did not have a great relationship. Bruce says that they have a good relationship now, but I think that's just. I don't think that's necessarily true. I could see Bruce also kind of getting the pink slip during this carousel of this role's going to this person, this role's going to this person. Frank had texted me yesterday. It was either Frank or Charlie. It was one of you. So clarify for me, who, unless you both said the same thing.
With yesterday's news, we both easily could have said the same thing.
Triple H, assuming the EVP role in talent relations, would this make Triple H? Would this make HBK now just run NXT? Who sent me that?
Frank.
Yeah, I think we discussed this. I mean, he obviously is right now doing it anyway, but I did say that. They're going to need someone to run the big roster, and I think, without, I don't know what Nick Khan thinks of Triple H's leadership. Like that, I've heard him talk about him a little bit. I don't know what his feelings are on the way he produced, what his vision. But if he gets the call to do that, if he gets I'm not saying he's going to head creative, but if he's in charge of picking the people, I can easily see him just staying up there and letting Sean run that permanently. Maybe bringing some of his other friends, maybe some people that we have been let go in the past might be back soon.
Yeah. And say what you will about NXT. I mean, obviously NXT 2.0 is not everyone's cup of tea. It's really not my cup of tea. But the black and gold brand before AEW came into play and Triple H was really running black and gold, because when AEW came along and they went head to head with NXT, it was not Triple H's black and gold. It was very much Vince McMahon's black and gold that got lambasted by AEW in the ratings. The long-term storytelling and this is something that I love about wrestling. There was more long-term storytelling in the the black and gold NXT Triple H led brand than the main WWE brand. If we can get that on the main roster with Triple H running, AEW is going to have a hard time, because that the match style is going to change in WWE. For better or worse, it's going to change. I don't mind flippy flops if there's a story involved. The problem with AEW in its current form is that there is no storylines whatsoever. And then when they do a decent storyline, like the Christian storyline with Luchasaurus, and then they totally pivot on it and just go, oh, Jungle Boy's back, he needs to be with Luchasaurus, and vice versa. I think in many ways the Triple H move was the biggest move yesterday, regardless of Vince retiring. That's just my opinion. Charlie, you had your hand raised. Shoot.
Not only that, about the long-term storytelling with Triple H's black and gold, but even if it's kept at 2.0 Nickelodeon NXT, if we could get some commitment that once a guy's ready to be pushed to the main roster, they can A, keep their gimmick, and B, be given great storylines, that would be even better. Because how many of these guys have we seen squandered once they reach main roster? It's pathetic. I love Tommaso Ciampa. I love The Miz, but do they work together? I don't think so.
No.
Tommaso Ciampa's a joke now.
Yep.
Of course, our boy Karrion Kross. They turned it into a joke.
Yep.
It's insulting. It's incredibly insulting.
Frank, your 2 cents.
Yeah, when you talk about storytelling, it was a different era, as we said. When they were on the network 1 hour every week, they weren't worrying about TV ratings or what's going to happen next week to compete. So they were able to do that long-term storytelling and building. Unfortunately, like you said, when it went to live, 2 hours became more of a, we got to throw everything out there, Crash TV style. There was still some great wrestling going on and a couple of good stories, but it wasn't the same, like you said. Now, and that's probably part of the reason why there was this disconnect between the main roster and NXT was, like, I don't think Vince was paying attention to NXT, obviously, when it was, but once he had a chance to, like, you know, leverage it for something big, of course he went for that. Right now, I can see, like, everybody's very upset about 2.0. There is still some good wrestlers down there and some good wrestling going on amongst some of the other stuff. But I see why they've done what they've done. Is an attempt to get people main roster ready, because if you have people with just they come up and a lot of the fans don't watch both these things. Even when Black and Gold was top, a lot of people watching that were like fans like us, like a lot of lapsed fans or people that were tired of WWE product. Obviously, looked at indies, looked to maybe Japan, ROH. Obviously, AEW came out of that. It's tough a lot because you can't just throw somebody out on TV and say, "Oh, hey, you know him from NXT." I'm like, well, a lot of people are like, "No, we don't." Especially like these children they were watching, they don't know who these people are. There's a balance to be struck here, and I think they will. Obviously, said not everybody's cup of tea. Probably shouldn't be on TV every week, 2 hours live if it's truly developmental. I don't mind it being developmental, like fully on, like it was before. Like it went on the network when it was just purely developmental. It wasn't too bad, but I don't think everything's going to change overnight, like you said. I don't think everything that's been going on is just Vince. I know he has the final say. He was the guy, you know, buck stopped with him. But there's a lot of stuff going on in the business side. Being a publicly traded company, answering to shareholders, it's not something you can just say, oh, well, we want to, you know, get more viewers. We get back to get the guys to stop watching it. I don't think that's going to mean anything to their bottom line, as long as they keep getting their big TV deals. But that's another thing that's coming up soon too. So
yep,
it's a very complicated thing. You guys make great points. I don't know what you think about maybe what any changes are going to happen in the next, like you said, it's going to take time. What do you think you'll see outside of, we said, maybe match styles different? Can they capture a balance between the hardcore fan and bring them back, as well as keeping these young viewers hooked and getting new fans involved, just like we talked about in our baseball podcast, trying to capture new fans and make them fans for life?
I think they can. They need to not overuse legends in main storylines. Like WrestleMania was awesome seeing Stone Cold, but I don't want to see Stone Cold again in another WrestleMania getting that much shine, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Goldberg in a main event match. You know what I liked this Goldberg run the most? When he had a match against Dolph Ziggler. That was the most perfect use of Goldberg.
Yeah.
In my opinion, most perfect use. That match and his first match back with Brock
Maybe a match too
was awesome. You can't have these guys come back as legends and win championships or compete for championships. You need guys like Theory. You need to build that guy up, right? You need to build Riddle up. You have Cody. They need kind of a revamping of this roster. I've talked about this with both of you. It seems like WWE as a company was quite okay with all these guys jumping to AEW and also releasing a ton of wrestlers and keeping what they had, it's almost as if they know when there's another company. It's kind of like what happened with WCW. The original core that's in AEW, that was in AEW, that helped build AEW to its initial rise and success, those guys are eventually going to be the odd men out, or there's going to be some diamonds in the rough on that roster that we don't think about, that WWE is looking at and going, man, you know, it would be really awesome if we took someone like Ricky Starks and put him in WWE. Man, you know, it would be really awesome. We take someone like Powerhouse Hobbs and put him in WWE. And, you know, Charlie may disagree. Frank, you may disagree. But the Attitude Era, Triple H, Mick Foley, Stone Cold Steve Austin, what those three guys all had in common, they were all released people from WCW that WWF saw as potential pieces, added them to the roster, and turned the tide. So it's not necessarily about going out and getting big names, right? Like WWE can go, you know what, we really want to get Kenny Omega, right, when his contract is up, and add him to our roster. They may not do anything. Like, you have to build a new superstars. You can't rest on the laurels of big names. It's like anything else. You have to build up, because eventually these guys get so old and so brittle. It doesn't pay. Charlie, your thoughts here?
I agree. We needed that new wave of superstars, which I believe they're building in what you said, Riddle, Theory, what have you. But they need to also showcase them more over the legends coming back and stealing spotlight from guys that are working their asses off on a weekly basis. I think right now we're in the midst of change, and you have your Theory and Riddle working to be those next guys to shine on the roster. And as far as talent from AEW, God knows I love talking about AEW. There are a handful of talent that I'd like to see in WWE. Mainly Darby Allin.
Okay.
I think he would be great. MJF.
Yeah.
He needs MJF. WWE would make MJF a megastar. I don't know off the top of my head who else I'd love to see from AEW and WWE, but I think we're on the start of something good as far as that next generation of talent goes. You have, well, I think when Cody comes back from injury, of course, he's going to get skyrocketed.
So, kind of fantasy booking right now, right? We'll have a little sidebar. There's a couple names that I would like to see. Starks, Hobbs, FTR, and the return of whatever incarnation they want to make this person, Bray Wyatt. Especially on the heels of WWE going TV 14. At some point, a Bray Wyatt TV 14 version would just be so intriguing.
Yeah.
Fantasy booking, you know, just pick a few people that are not like top level guys that you would like to see as well, Frank.
Okay. I kind of agree with
or females too. I mean, we left out females, but
sure. I agree with most of what you guys are saying. Yeah, I'd like. There's several people you can think of. You've mentioned several of that are on my mind already, but I'll think of some more off the top of my head here. We'll start with females then. Fine. We probably all agree that AEW has not done the best with their female talent. I mean, they obviously they had a thin roster to start, but they've been stockpiling people and not exactly doing anything with them. I would probably say right now, thinking of potential stars, maybe a Statlander. She seems like somebody would have fit in right in the Triple H NXT era. You know, there's several young talent. I mean, I'm trying to think right now. Obviously, I don't think Thunder Rosa would be. They had her before and they wanted to make a referee. I couldn't see that happening.
They wanted to make her a referee.
I don't know. You've mentioned all the top guys. I'm trying to think of some undercard guys I'd like to see. There's a lot of guys that aren't getting a lot of TV time right now. Honestly, I still don't know why they sit on Sonny Kiss and do nothing with Sonny Kiss.
Yeah.
As far as potential megastars, let me see here. I mean, I'd like to see Pillman Jr. get more of a shine.
I agree.
I mean, I think it's time to let him to go to singles route, but for him to be something other than, hey, that's Brian Pillman's kid. I think he has some more stuff to offer based on the stuff I've seen him before AEW, some of his MLW stuff. My friend has showed me
with DH Smith.
DH Smith, and I went to a couple shows, so I saw some of that. So he's still in his 20s, I believe. So yeah, he's still.
I think he's like 28.
He's a potential star there. Even Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy is still rather young. Not saying AEW is not going to try to make him a star. I think they want to. It's just they have so many people right now. It's kind of tough when you have a big roster like that, which we saw at WWE. They had way too many people signed, and they didn't have time to use them all. I agree on Starks and Hobbs. Look at some younger guys they've got there. Hulk, obviously.
While you're thinking, I'm going to throw this out to the audience and you two as well. I can actually see Moxley going back to WWE now.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
The reason being is I don't think him and Vince ever clicked. I think that was part of the friction. He spoke very highly of Triple H and Stephanie, and even Renee, his wife, as well. I could see Moxley, when his contract is up, going back, because there's money left on the table with him, Reigns, and Rollins. Like, that is a money. Those are money feuds. It's a money faction. And what I like is that they didn't overdo the matches between the three of them. So there's money to be made still with those three guys.
Absolutely.
The person that I don't see coming back, that I used to see coming back, is I don't think we'll see Chris Jericho back in WWE.
No.
Maybe only like a Hall of Fame induction or something, or a quick, one-on-one off match. You make a good point there, because Jericho and Vince were very tight, and obviously they still have a lot of respect for each other. Vince has let him be used on his TV a couple times since he's been gone, so I think he was a big Vince guy. Once Vince likes somebody, he likes them, which is why I think when you see Mick Foley speak so highly of him, once he becomes a fan of you, he's a fan of you forever. And yeah, with Triple H in charge, I don't know. Actually, bringing that up, would you see Punk ever making a comeback now, if at the end of his career, especially with Triple H in power? No, right? That's what we all were saying.
No, because it's exactly what he said in the pipe bomb.
Yeah, it is. But who knew that people would actually be excited to hear that Triple H was taking over one day, right? Back then.
Yeah, Charlie, go ahead, man.
As far as Jericho goes, he's built his own legacy at AEW right now. I think he's more than content with where he is over there, and he's having the time of his life. I don't see him coming back to WWE. We know that lines are open between WWE and AEW, so I mean, it would be wrong to have the Hall of Fame without Jericho, but who knows?
And Christian.
And Christian.
I mean, if you really want to talk about money left on the table, after Christian's Royal Rumble performance, then he signs with AEW a few months later. If we can get one last Edge and Christian run / feud, I think that's also money. Maybe we do get a Forbidden Door like talent exchange program between the two companies. Who knows what might happen now? You really don't know what might happen. No.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too excited, but I'm cautious here, considering I know the business is still the business end, and I understand why people don't do too much cross promotion stuff, because we saw with Forbidden Door, it's very hard for them to want to say, "Oh, my guy's going to go over and your guy." People always said, well, Vince wouldn't let his guys be beat. I said, well, nobody would let their guys be beat unless you're, Scott D'Amore thinks it's a good idea for Kenny Omega to run roughshod over his roster.
Go ahead, Charlie, and then after you say something, I have something to say.
Imagine if a Forbidden Door does open in WWE, and instead of a yearly draft, they had like a yearly trade between like a bunch of companies. This guy is with WWE for a year. This guy's with AEW for a year. That would be intense.
I mean, that's kind of like how the old territories worked.
Yeah.
You would have like Ric Flair work, 3 months in one territory as a champion. Then he would go to the other territory as a champion. And it was always like a fresh, feud that would happen. I don't know if that necessarily works in today's day and age, but the one thing, and I don't want to. I'm an AEW fan. I want AEW to succeed. I've just been really disappointed
with current
over the last 7 months of AEW programming. I feel like it's really gotten stale, overbooked, like it's just not cohesive, and that a lot falls on Tony Khan, right? Because he's the sole decision maker of this company. He says that he gets input from others, but I just don't see that. I don't see it. It's a very fantasy booked, like if I was gonna book WWE No Mercy, right? Remember they had to create a pay-per-view stuff and that, and I fantasy booked and made creative wrestlers of people and just have them face off. That's what AEW has become in many, many ways. So he sends out a tweet. Did you guys see this tweet yesterday?
Yesterday, he's a douche.
So I'm gonna read the tweet for our audience. Please comment, like, subscribe. We love the support. 360 strong now. Love you guys. Tony Khan, his tweet: thanks to you wrestling fans and your great support of AEW, I'm grateful to now be the longest tenured CEO in pro wrestling. Thank you very much to every single person who watches AEW on TV. See you for Friday Night Rampage on TNT Drama tonight. What the hell is this guy? He's on some cocaine to think that's a rational, business-like CEO move when a man... Listen, Tony, your tweet should read, thanks to Vince McMahon. Without you, I don't exist and have this company to fantasy book my wet dream matches that I've put together. Thank you very much, Vince. I love you. That's how his tweet should have been. Not the shit that we got here. Say what you want about Vince McMahon and the allegations. Some of them are probably going to get even worse stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. This tweet was in such bad taste.
Agreed.
Frank is speechless. He can't even.
No, it's a very Tony Khan tweet. It's what I would have expected. I'm not like some people. I've seen a lot of people online that are like really offended by that. Even people that would normally be like rah rah AEW are very annoyed with that. It's just very Tony Khan tweet. He's essentially still us when we were 15, fantasy booking stuff online, like you said, tape trading, all that stuff, and having that kind of attitude. It's not a good look. He's done a lot. I mean, he's done a lot worse than that. His tweets we've discussed in the past. It's what I expect out of him. I'm not mad or anything. Some people are like, "Oh God, how could you?" Obviously, you can discuss these allegations, and obviously, we said they're probably gonna get a lot worse. You can differentiate between that and the business. You can still call him a trash human being, but also a visionary in this industry.
Yeah,
a lot of people don't want to do that. I mean, people still have a hard time talking about Benoit and other stuff like that. There are a lot of legends that have been, had their legacies kind of. But then again, I've known this watching for over 30 years. It's a shady industry. Pretty much all my heroes growing up were jerks in real life. I've come to grips with that. I think Tony should just focus on doing what he does well. And remember the lessons we've learned from other companies in the past that have had big runs and kind of squandered them just because, they get too complacent. Maybe he needs to just have some more people to delegate responsibilities to instead of trying to run everything, even the YouTube shows. Come on.
He's editing the YouTube shows himself.
Huh.
Not to mention apparently writing Max Caster's raps now, essentially.
Oh my God.
That's where it started. Well, I'm going to edit the YouTube shows. I'm like, dude. I know we said Vince never stops working, but even he has other people that do stuff for him.
Yes. You're only as good as the people you put around you, and when you have no voices around you or people, it's not a good sign.
No.
I hope for the sake of business that AEW refines the recipe that they had early on, because the first year and a half of AEW was really good, and now it's on a decline. And it's not just me saying this; it's the audience saying it. It is the ratings have been stagnant to dipping. Charlie.
No, I was saying it's me saying it as well.
Okay. I thought you were raising your hand for a monologue. But another piece of news that came out yesterday, right? Reported by the luminaries of the business, the people that know everything, Brian Alvarez, Sean Ross Sapp. Brock Lesnar has walked out of the building. He is very upset. If he's gone, I'm gone, quote unquote. His reaction to Vince's retirement, which I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He probably did walk out. But you know why he walked out? I'll tell you why Brock walked out. For everyone at home watching this, Brock Lesnar is the best businessman in the entire industry of wrestling. He saw this as an opportunity to make more money. And I guarantee you, this is probably his words, I have a handshake deal with Vince, which is probably true. I don't see Brock on a contract right now. And I made this deal with Vince. What deal am I going to make with you, Stephanie and Nick Khan, to work this SummerSlam match? And he got whatever he wanted and made his return back to the building. I applaud him.
Yeah.
Because technically, he's 100% right. I made this deal with your father. I did not make this deal with you. What are you going to do for me? Because I do not have a contract with WWE. Go ahead.
SummerSlam is the WrestleMania of the summer. Why not add a couple more zeros to the pay?
Yeah.
And obviously, hats off to Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman definitely taught Brock Lesnar this side of the business. But I think now Brock has taken it to a whole nother level.
Yeah. And Brock probably, like you said, pay him the money. He'll go out there and lose in 3 seconds if he wants to. He doesn't care. He's not a mark for himself in the slightest. He understands the business side. I know that rubs a lot of fans the wrong way, but I respect it. It's a job when it comes to it. Doesn't mean he doesn't enjoy doing what he does out there. Doesn't mean
he loves it.
He loves it. Look, he's having a great. If you look at him the last year, he's having a ball out there. It's fun to see him excited. But at the end of the day, you got to get paid, and he knows that. And whether or not how true these rumors were, I could see that happening. Maybe it was blown out of proportion. But, the internet never does that. They don't blow anything out of proportion. But I was not surprised at all to see him walk out at the end of the night, to be honest.
Charlie, did you raise your hand?
Yeah. He's a made man. He can take the loss at SummerSlam and still have the time of his life, not be seen for a year or so, come back and do it all over again. So, it's no loss for Brock Lesnar.
And I've said this for the past couple of years now. When Brock is gone, the fans that hate him are going to miss him.
Oh, yeah.
Say what you want about his moveset, but there is no bigger credible threat than Brock Lesnar. And also, his ability to sell is so underrated. He sells so well. It's incredible. We talk about, Michaels and Ziggler and those guys. I think Brock is right up there when it's selling a move or selling, a shot with a chair, whatever. That dude is he's built differently, obviously, but he's also like a student of the game, and he just gets it. Like, he gets the aspect of pro wrestling and selling and everything. Like, everything means something with Brock, and you don't get that with 99% of the wrestlers.
Agreed.
Now, we do have to talk about this. We touched on it a little bit. How bad do we think these Vince stories are going to be in the next week? What's our hypothesis? What's our what do we think is going to happen? I'll give you mine first. I think we're going to get at least 1 or 2 names that are going to reveal themselves with Vince stories in terms of females coming from behind the curtain. It's saying XYZ either in a Wall Street Journal article or just publicly, like a press conference. And it's going to affect WWE's financial business and the stocks still, because there's still a McMahon name attached to WWE. Mm. He's still the largest shareholder in the company. Charlie, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, me and you talked about this yesterday, and if the name that you brought up is true and it's Ashley, that's not going to look good on Vince in the slightest.
Yeah, and that's rumor. And it would look really bad because she's not here to speak her story. So it would have to be done through some other sources, right? But yeah, it would just look bad. Frank, what's your take here on everything?
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you on that. I've heard other people discuss stuff about her, but I think the big thing, like you said, is people actually coming out and speaking their story. So far, we've just heard about, third-hand information about payoffs and what supposedly it was for. If we start finding out from these people, and they're going to go on the record and say this stuff, it's not a good look. And I think that's what's next, honestly. And this is why abruptly he's gone, because and they're still going to take a hit, like you said, but they definitely could not have him technically still being there at the show, being in charge with this stuff coming out. He's in for a lot of. I mean, we could see more lawsuits stem from this. We could see more shareholders. Like they've already complained about. They've been several lawsuits about stuff they were kept in the dark about. This is something maybe people aren't talking enough about. And the way this story has been covered in media, I've heard several people discuss this, wrestling journalists, and they're very correct. The media hasn't really taken this seriously yet. It's just more about Vince a couple weeks ago. Well, he stepped down temporarily, but he's going to be on the show tonight. And they're like, oh yeah, of course he is. They've kind of treated like, as always, he's always wanted to be taken seriously, and they've never taken him seriously. Unfortunately, the one time they're probably going to finally take him seriously is for this. And I don't even want to speculate. I'm just saying we're going to have more like crazy damning stuff come out. That's like, we can't even like deny it or not even deny it, just kind of like think about, well, there's possibly other things going on. When you hear from the person involved, it's a big weight, a big difference, more of an impact. Obviously, if we go back to the Dark Side of Ring with the Ric Flair stuff last year, when you hear it from the person themselves,
yeah,
kind of hard to give anybody the benefit of the doubt.
And now, as currently everything sits and stands, right, from our vantage point, there's no murders, rapes involved in any of these payoffs and allegations, right? It's a man using his position and his power and his money to basically get sexual favors through a relationship when he's married but not married. That part of the story I still don't get. Was he married? Was he not married to Linda? Have they just been having a big lie for the last, 20 years, right? There's a lot to this story that the dots still need to be connected. If you do a little research on some of the payoffs, I can speculate on one or two of. There's one that I'm pretty sure was a female talent on the roster, and I think that person's Christy Hemme was one of them. The rest I'm not really sure of, according to the 4 payoffs. I think one was Christy Hemme. The other 3, not sure. I know there was the paralegal. Obviously, we don't know who the paralegal is. But from talent that we know, I'm pretty sure Christy Hemme was one of them. If you connect dots, it would make some sense. And then when you look back in this sick warped mind, right, of Vince, right? Do you think the Diva Search was his like personal picnic, like his personal like playground to like find women? That's what it seems like now.
In retrospect, I could see it.
I mean, I think a lot of people even then were saying that, but in a joking manner. But yeah, I mean, and from the stuff we heard about how Laurinaitis would try to recruit people just out of magazines or catalogs, whatever, it was creepy then, and it's even creepier now in retrospect.
You know what's really creepy? And I haven't even thought about this until you said it. Laurinaitis recruited the Bellas.
Oh, geez.
He booked his own marriage. Just like they used to say Kevin Sullivan booked his own divorce, but it's something.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do we expect timeline? Do we think next week we get a couple bombshells, or at least a bombshell about Vince? It seems like that's the road that we're headed.
Yeah, I think they might even reveal stuff a little earlier now that this story, after this his retirement. I expected, and I was expecting anyway, but I could see something happening, maybe beginning of this week coming up, even, and which would be obviously even worse timing considering they're going into one of their biggest pay-per-views of the year in a major stadium.
Charlie?
First thing that came up on Fox News after SmackDown went off the air last night was Vince stepping down from WWE, and they immediately went into him being on the verge of trials and all of that. They didn't just say he retired from WWE; they went into detail on it. So people know why he is retiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The statement kind of rings hollow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm getting old. Yeah. Okay, Vince. Yes. Yeah, that's the only reason.
But based on, I'm not trying to minimize what's been done and what's been stated on paper with the lawsuits, right? And the payoffs. There was no rape. There was no forcing himself onto someone. He didn't murder anyone. If next week we get something where it's more along the lines of like, Vince forced himself on, then I think we're really, headed down a slippery slope here with Vince. Because I think if these allegations come out again, like, oh, there's more of these women that he paid off, I don't think he retires. I think there's more, like a more serious thing that's going to come out of left field with an actual name that's attached to it. Like, you look at Harvey Weinstein and you look at Louis C.K., those allegations didn't carry any weight until someone attached their name to it. Right? Once a name was attached to it, then you're like, oh shit, this is real. Someone is showing their face. Someone's walking me through exactly what happened. And I think that's what we're going to get. And that's going to spark the match, so to speak. And we're probably going to see quite a few come out.
The floodgates are...
And it's going to be ugly. And here's the thing that happens. 90% of them will be true, but then you'll have the other 10% that are not true. People that just hop on the clout train because they just don't like Vince McMahon.
Yeah, we've seen that before.
Which brings up the fact that Frank texted me this, like, and I'll speak a little bit for Frank, then Frank can share his side, and we'll all share our side before signing off. Frank said, I have really mixed emotions about this because of what has come out. And like, I understand his viewpoint, but if you want to elaborate a little bit more, Frank, your kind of mixed feelings about the retirement.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us, it's just over the we've speculated for years. We've always thought, just a lot of people have, just from his persona on TV, just the way he's acted, certain things, certain booking decisions. We've assumed a lot of stuff, but when you start hearing, obviously there was the allegation in the 80s from the female referee.
Yeah.
But nothing ever followed up on that. I mean, back in the 90s when the steroid scandal was going on, a lot of people hopped on the bandwagon with axes to grind. But if you just look at it from the standpoint, like, you don't know who this man is, you just know this man is in charge of this company, this rich man is, and he's doing this, you'll say, God, that's disgusting. Just another example of somebody abusing their power and being a disgusting pig.
Yep.
And that's true. And I can see why people are just going on that, and they're going to say, we're not thinking about anything else. It's just that. And that's 100% fair. At the same time, we're like, what does this mean for industry? See, we're immediately jumping to what it means as fans, what's going to happen next. The weight of it is kind of, that's what I meant by mixed emotions. Like, I never thought this day would come. This is wild. I don't know. And then realizing, oh my God, what else did he do?
Correct. Charlie?
No, I agree completely with what Frank's saying. None of us thought we'd see the day that he'd retire. We all thought he died before retiring. I think you said, JML, you said that you think a name or two is going to come out this week, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to agree with that. And I think, like any other scandal on this level, once a name or two comes out, people will be coming out of the woodwork to say, oh, that happened to me too, me too, me too. We'll probably see that I'd say by this time next weekend.
Yeah. This wouldn't be a show with JML unless I get a little philosophical, right? You know how I am, Charlie and Frank.
Yeah.
In life, there's a balance, there's yin and yang, right? And this is part of life, right? In the dichotomy of life. In every bad situation, there is some good that comes out of it and vice versa. So Vince and these allegations is is obviously bad. It's horrible. The good is he's stepped down. He's not going to be part of creative. So the product that he built up for us to enjoy, we're going to probably get a better product again. So that's the silver lining in this whole thing. Now, I feel bad for everything that has happened, but we're also, as wrestling fans in a show that relies on wrestling content, this has given us so much to talk about on both sides of the fence here. And I would rather be talking about how great the product is than Vince, the allegations, and the dark side of the business. So if we can get rid of that and focus on the in-ring, I think we have the recipe for great content, not only watching, but us doing a show and everyone else that does, wrestling content. So that's my thoughts. And if anyone in the audience has some thoughts, please comment down below. If you disagree, agree, whatever, please comment, please like, please share, please subscribe. Before we sign off, I'll start with Frank. Anything you want to say to our audience?
Thank you guys for obviously supporting and commenting, everything like that here on the wrestling stuff and our baseball cast. It's a wild time. It's already been a wild year in the sport. Hopefully, as you said, some good comes out of the bad, and maybe it works out better for everyone. Or one removes somebody that's clearly, his behavior is obviously not acceptable, and maybe this will help as the stuff in Hollywood did with the Weinstein stuff. Maybe this will stop a lot of this stuff from happening out there in the world. At least I would hope so. But
yeah, and that movement didn't gain any traction until there was actually names, because you heard whispers of this with Harvey Weinstein, right? Of everything with Harvey Weinstein. But then when people stepped out, and the females that were brave enough to step out and go, man, this guy's a monster, then we really got the ball rolling. Charlie, your thoughts to our audience.
Thank you all for helping us reach 360 subscribers.
It's amazing.
Subscribe, share, comment. Frank, do you have something to say?
Oh, what was it? I was just going to say I want to shout out my friends at Up Next. I don't want to promote anything on your show, but next Sunday we're having Up Next Summer Mania. Myself, the current BD champion, defending against my good friend turned bitter enemy, John Cena Evil. Hosted a Shot in the Dark podcast on the Post Wrestling Network. We'll be going live on Twitch and YouTube next week. We do these trivia type games, but it's kind of done like in a wrestling presentation. So I just want to shout them out. If anybody wants to check us out, check out our YouTube, check out the Twitch. We're going to have some fun next week.
Yeah, you could put them in our comments or description box or something. I also will shout out the Scholars of Wrestling as well. Charlie.
And hopefully next weekend, not too much crazy news breaks loose because we also have SummerSlam to preview.
Yeah, we'll be doing, or at least I'll be doing, because God, Charlie might be sleeping again.
Shut up. I'll be there.
I'll be doing. Well, what we're gonna do is our first ever, and I'm putting everyone on the spot here. Our first ever live post show.
Like I said, just give me 45 minutes to get home from Jefferson, and I'm good to go.
Okay, live post show.
Right.
Yeah, shout out Scholars of Wrestling. Check out their thoughts on the Vince retirement. They had, how many people were on? You had five.
Yeah,
five of you
were there last night.
So you'll get 5 different opinions as well and thoughts. So check that out. Thank you so much to the audience, and my sign off as per usual. Good night and good luck. Stay well. Keep the faith. Love will conquer all.
Peace.
Peace.